Welcome back, Spurs fans, to the Scott Hepler football channel. Today we're doing our top 5 ponderings for the Spurs to see if they can make it into the top 5 this season. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, support the channel. We want to build a nice big community of people that have thoughtful debate and want to just continue to grow this channel and make it a great place for people to come and engage and bounce ideas off of each other. If you enjoy the video, make sure to hit the like button, and anything that we talk about, throw it down in the comments. Let's have a discussion. Let's talk about it, because there's a lot to talk about. So with that being said, we're going to ponder upon the Spurs' ability to make top 5 this season. And this is a series I've been doing for the past couple weeks. So this is this week's installment. This is following the Aston Villa match on the 21st. Spurs won 2-0. Very good. Needed that. And so we've been going through crunching numbers, and with each match past few weeks, I've been plugging in the data and seeing where it's spitting us out in comparison to teams like West Ham, Chelsea, Liverpool, Everton, I wish we won, Leicester City, and Aston Villa. So those are the teams that I had in this comparison starting 2 or 3 weeks ago. I know that Arsenal's moved up in the top 10 now. I'll see how they do over the next week or two, and then if I need to bring them into the mix, I will. Also, with Man United, if they have any issues or start to falter, I may bring them into the mix too. But with that being said, we're going to keep talking about the teams we've been talking about the past few weeks. So Spurs are currently in 6th after beating Aston Villa, 48 points. We do play Newcastle after the international break. So right now we're in the beginnings of the international break. So just to kind of recap, I've broken the season down into quarters. And the first 2 quarters are 9 matches each. And then the last 2 quarters are 10 matches each. So we've completed our 3rd quarter, and we played our first match in the 2nd quarter. So just to review, our 3rd quarter we went 4 wins, no draws, and 6 losses. So not a great quarter. Gathered total 12 points. So we started off this quarter well. First quarter match was against Aston Villa. So we got a good start to the quarter. So that's good. And I hear a lot of people talking about the Spurs are top in form in the table in the last 5 matches. Yeah, that all sounds good. Yeah, we've collected 12 out of 15 points in the last 5 matches. But in comparison to the teams that we're really chasing, which is, in my mind, Chelsea and West Ham. Chelsea's collected 9 out of 15 in the last 5. West Ham's collected 7 out of 15 in the last 5. But that's kind of a narrow snapshot. It doesn't give us a real good indicator of what the Spurs have been over a period of time. And so if we back it up and go 11 matches back, which takes us at the beginning of the 3rd quarter, the Spurs have collected 15 out of 33 points. 5 wins, no draws, 6 losses. So we compare that to Chelsea. Chelsea's gone 22 out of 33 points that they've collected. They have 6 wins, 4 draws, and 1 loss. And they're actually on a run of 10 straight matches without a loss. So their 1 loss came 11 matches ago. So arguably they're on an upward trend. Not just a short snippet, but a long-term trend. That's saying they're doing things that are making progress for them. As far as our 11 game trend, it's debatable. Are we coming out of the funk we were in? And that's very debatable after the Arsenal match and the Zagreb match. One match after those 2 debacles does not make what we are and what we're doing positively. It's going to take a couple more matches. And then when we look at West Ham in their last 11 matches, they've collected 20 points out of 33. So they're almost as good as Chelsea in collecting points. And now their record is 6 wins, 2 draws, and 3 losses. So a little bit heavier on the losses than Chelsea, but still collecting 20 out of 33 points. We would love to be able to say that. So that's kind of where things are shaking out right now. So if we look at the season totals, and this is from the beginning of the season all the way through the most recent matches each team's played, and look at some of the stats that we kind of use to go through our analysis and determine our projections. So Spurs are sitting at 1 point, and excuse me if I'm looking away, I'm looking at notes. There's too much data for me just to remember up in my head. But the Spurs are sitting at 1.69 goals per match, and they're giving up 1.03 goals per match. Remember, this is the entire span of the season in the Premier League. And they're collecting 1.66 points per match, and currently sitting in 6th. You compare that to the other teams, and I'm really going to talk mostly about Chelsea and West Ham because they're really the two I feel like we're chasing to try to catch to get in top 5. So you look at the goals per match over the last entire season for each of them. So Chelsea's at 1.55, West Ham's at 1.59. Opponents' goals per match, Chelsea's really doing good. They're at 0.86, where West Ham's at 1.24. Now this is where it's really a disparity, and not just now, but we're going to talk about what it actually looks like from the third quarter stats moving into the fourth quarter. But for the season totals, you can see Chelsea is collecting 1.76 points per match. Now that's a full 0.1 points per match better than Spurs, and West Ham's at 1.69. So they're both collecting points better over the season than we are. And that's kind of why they're where they're at. They're each right above us, 5th and 4th. Let's take a look and see what those numbers look like just from the third quarter to now. And this kind of gives us a gauge on what are teams actually right now. What are they doing? What's their real form? I don't consider a 5-game form much of a snapshot because you may just catch 5 teams at the right moment. Because if you look at the ones that we beat, they're probably ones we should have beat. And then we lost Arsenal. And we didn't just lose. It was a debacle. So if we look at these stats, third quarter into the fourth, 11 matches for these 3 teams. Goals per match, Tottenham's at 1.45. Opponents' goals per match is 1.18. So we're doing a little bit worse than our season average because we did excellent in the first 9 matches. We were one of the top defensive teams in the league in the first 9 matches. Well, that's not been the case since then. If you just take and go over the last 2 months, 3 months, we've not been the best defensive team like we were in that first month and a half or so. Month and a half, 2 months. And then points per match. We're only collecting 1.36 points per match over the last 11 matches. That's worse than our season total, which kind of is understandable when we had such a great run in those first 9 matches. We went a long time without really giving up any points. And we collected a lot of points in those first 9 matches. Where you look at Chelsea, just in the last 11 matches, they're scoring 1.09 goals per match. Not a great amount, but their opponents' goals per match is 0.36. Now, when you have that kind of disparity between goals for and goals against, you're going to get some points. And it shows they're collecting 2 points per match right now. And you compare that with the West Ham. West Ham's at 1.8 goals per match. They're giving up 1.27. They still have a big gap that they can have some leeway there. Where if you look at our margin of error, it's much more narrow than the other 2. And then you look at their points per match, it's 1.82. So if these are the two that we really need to catch, it doesn't look great for us. Now, as I've talked about before in this series, it's not just about how many points per match you're collecting over this period of time, this period of time. We'll always also look at the schedule, the remaining schedule for each team, to kind of project with this information and look and decipher what really is going to happen over the next 9 matches for these teams. So real quick, let's just review where we were at the last week's where the projected standings were for last week that I came up with. And the week before, we were still projected to not finish in the top 5. We were projected to finish 6th. But then we had that loss to Arsenal, and it moved the numbers. So with all the numbers moving and what other teams did, last week we were projecting that Tottenham would finish 8th with 62 points. And that would be 6 points behind West Ham, who we project for 5th. So now, drum roll, where are we saying that Tottenham's going to end up after the Aston Villa match? Unfortunately, it doesn't move us enough. There's not enough good data, not enough meat on the bone, I guess you could say, with the numbers that we're putting up and the data that's being displayed and the remaining schedule that says we're going to make up that kind of ground, in conjunction with what West Ham and Chelsea are doing, and that they're not going to lose that much ground from looking at their schedules and everything they're doing and such. So while it does push us back up into finishing 6th over Everton, Liverpool, Arsenal, Aston Villa, again, Arsenal's not in here. They would, you could argue they'd finish above Aston Villa or not, it's not. But the fact of the matter is even with some good statistical analysis and running through and figuring out what's going on, we're still coming up about 4 points short. And my margin of error that I've built into this is 3 points. So we're going to have to really do something spectacular, because I have us going in the last 9 matches. I have the Spurs going 6-1-3, 6 wins, 1 draw, 3 losses, which wouldn't be a terrible finish to any 9-run match, because that gives you 6, 18, 19 points out of 27. I mean, that's a pretty good number. So that's not unreasonable. I mean, I feel like I'm giving us everything I can, and while looking at the data and having it tell me what it says. So I don't feel like I'm being unfair. I just don't see us making top 5 this season unless we go on a spectacular run where the numbers really start to turn around. And that is a very interesting thing, because that could happen with the fact of us playing 1 match a week. Everyone rests throughout the week, and we have a strongest team every weekend. So it's not that it's impossible. It's going to take more than 1 win over Aston Villa for me to believe that the form is improved. So we got some tough matches coming up against Everton, Man United, Leicester City in that last 9 matches. So it's not like it's a cakewalk. We got definitely some teams that'll be fighting for stuff and fighting to stay up in the top 4 or 5. So it's not just going to be a walk in the park. And our next match is Newcastle United, who is, for all intents and purposes, is on a downward spiral, trying to stay out of relegation, because they're right there. It's almost like they're playing to get into relegation at this point, the way they've been playing lately. But, they're our next match. So with them and the match after that, I think those are going to be two matches that tell us really where we're headed. So it's going to take more than just Aston Villa and Newcastle. We're going to need to get into a solid opponent and get a result there before I can actually see these numbers moving more significantly for us. And, some of it has to do with the other teams. How do they do? Do they go on a bad run of form or something like that? But right now, sorry, everybody, if this is depressing, because I'm hopeful. So it's kind of the, my head's torn one way and my heart's torn the other. I'm hopeful that we can do well, but my head's telling me it's not going to quite work out the way we want it and make top 5 and be in European competition next season. But things can change. There's still 9 matches. There's still 27 points on the board to go collect. And, if we run all 27 points, let's, just see where it lies. But honestly, at this point, I just can't see it. But let me know what you all think. I know there's a lot of numbers, stats, and things I throw out at everyone in these. Let me know your thoughts. If you see things differently in some way or manner. I mean, you look at the last 9 matches. Can we do better than 6-1-3? Or excuse me, that's not right. 5-1-3. There. I did botch that. But the last 9 matches, 5-1-3. That's what I have our record being. And that's still not a bad run. That'd be 16 over 9 matches. So not great, but how can you expect us to do better than that with the kind of form we've shown in the last few months and with the previous week prior to the Aston Villa match? But let me know what you all think, and let's hope we come back from this international break refreshed and just ready to take on the remainder of the season. Come on, Big Blue.